Now that we've joined our two data frame together, let's create a contact list. First, let's take a look at what columns we need from the merged data frame. Okay, we need some information from the customer list and some from the address list. So we already know how we can select fields from a data frame. So there's nothing new here for us. So what we are going to do is to create the customer list var customer contact list equal from the customer with address data frame. We have to select the customer with address. We know that we can use the select method to select fields from a data frame. So we are going to apply this, and then we will select the fields we are interested in, first name, and so on and so on. So this is how this worked. With the merge data frame, we then pass in all the column we are interested in. I already wrote the query to do the select, so let me copy and paste it here. So this will be our customer contact list. It contains all the fields we need in our report. So let's build the source code. Okay, it built perfectly. Now let us take a look the first row. So this looks great. We have our contact list is almost ready. You can see here that we have first name, last name, country and city and the like. But there's also one thing you can see here is that the header of our data frame or the column name are mostly technical name. But in the report, you can see that we use normal name like first name instead of C_first name. So we have to rename the columns. And there are two ways to rename fields from a data frame. So the first way is to use, instead of selecting with the select method, we can use the select expression method. So remember, the select expression method takes as argument a valid select expression, a SQL expression, and applies it to an existing data frame. With SQL, we can select a field, let's say C first name, and then rename it in our result. So we can then do something like that, first name. Then instead of, and later we will have a column called first name instead of C first name. So this is how you can use the select expression to rename fields from an existing data frame. So for this, I'll already have the source code ready. So let me copy and paste it here. So here, this is the version 1 of how you can rename a column. You can use the select expression method and pass in an SQL expression. there's one thing you will notice here is that if you want to use empty spaces in the column names, then you have to put them into backstick before passing them to the select expression method. So this is how this looks like, and here we'll just rename all the columns we have into normal names. The second way to do it is to use a method called WithColumnRename. And what this method does, it takes a column from a given data frame and return a data frame with the new name as the previous of the column. So if we do the same, so here we can do the same thing. We can pass in something like that, and then we have to pass in the new name, and in our case it will be first name. And here you can already see the main difference between select expression and WithColumnRename. When we used the WithColumnRename method, we don't have to use backsticks to enclose name that contains white spaces. So this is a valid name, but if you do the same thing with the select expression method, let's say something like that, like this, then this will not work. So with the select expression method, if you need empty space, you put backsticks there, but with the column rename, we don't need it. So I already have that one also written, so let me copy it and put it also here. And as I can see, I've messed something. Customer with address, customer contact list. I guess this is this one. Yep. Okay, build. Now we can take a look into version 1 dot show me 5 of them. Version 2, this should be equal, so same result, and the customer contact list, so the original one dot also show me 5 of them. Now build it, and then let's run it. Great, everything works fine. You can see that this was the original one, where the column name was still a little bit so technical, and this is version 1 and version 2, where everything looks equal. And here you can see I've forgotten to rename the state column in version 2. So here you can see that I missed. There is no state. So here we forgot to rename the state column, and this is why we have something like that. But here we rename it properly. That's why in version 1 it's correctly renamed. So this is how we can rename a column using Apache Spark. So one last thing we must do here, we must then decide which version we want to use. So I think I will just use the select expression version 1. and we don't need, this was just for information. Then we copy this one, put it there, and delete this one. So there's one thing I'm going to do here. We remove all these empty spaces from the names because we want a data frame that is technically correct. Otherwise, let's just rename everything as straight and then do it like that. And like that. So now I've changed the name of the column to be a little bit more user friendly so that later when we are using this data frame, we don't have to handle empty spaces. We don't have to write special code to handle empty spaces. So this is how we can rename columns. And till now we've learned a lot. We learned how we can select information from a data frame, how we can join two data frame together, and how we can rename columns. So next we will see how we can then save the content of our data frame to the disk as a CSV file so that we can then pass it to other users so that they can build their report with it.